Hi, I'm Caitlin E, and welcome to my lit review. This is my first attempt at a YouTube video, so please be gentle with me. And I thought it was really appropriate to do the BookTube Newbie Tag. It's a tag I've seen around for many years, but it seemed like a good place to start for something like this, where I'm really just test driving what this channel is going to be about. And you can get to know me and my book tastes a little bit better in the process. So let's get into these BookTube Newbie Tag questions. Number one, why did you start this channel? Well, I've been a big fan of BookTube for a while. Like, I follow a ton of different sized channels, and that's been really a rewarding experience. And so much of how I cope with my day-to-day stress and anxiety is by reading. And so I really just kind of thought this was the right time for me to put myself out there and join the community in a more active way. And yeah, that's part of why I wanted to start this YouTube channel, as a way to kind of continue my own personal journey towards getting some form of conquering over my stress and anxiety. No promises on the long haul, but some form of it. And yeah, just to kind of share reading passions with fellow passionate readers. Okay, question 2. What are some fun or unique things that you can bring to BookTube? I don't really want to overly focus on being unique. Personally, I think I'm fun. I hope I can bring something fun to BookTube just by being my sweet little self. But in terms of uniqueness, I think it's way more important to have genuine, authentic conversations about books and about your processes of reading and your biases and your taste. And I think that's where the uniqueness comes in, is because everybody's reading tastes are a little bit different. Even though you might end up really aligning with the things that I like, we're going to differ on some things. And I think that's what keeps things unique, special, interesting. But also I want to make this channel kind of a safe space to talk about and normalize the conversation around anxiety, stress, and depression, and the coping mechanisms that we're using to handle those things. So I don't ever want it to make it sound like books are the only cure, because they're not. They're really difficult things to deal with on the daily. And I'm also not going to try and spend every YouTube video talking your ear off about stress, anxiety, or depression, but just kind of making that something that is foregrounded in how I process reading, how I am as a person who reads, is something that I think is important. I won't say unique, because a lot of people struggle with this stuff out there, but it is something that I think is going to differentiate me in some small way with how I handle my reading experiences here on YouTube. So, yeah. Number 3, what are you most excited about with starting this channel? There's a lot. It's like exciting and intimidating kind of go hand in hand, but I think the thing that's not as intimidating but is very exciting is the community. Getting to have book recommendations, like getting to have bookish conversations with more people, because the things that I find super validating in my day-to-day life are having conversations with people about books or movies or TV shows that I really like. So having a whole new space where there's going to be so many more opportunities to talk to people is really exciting. Yeah, that's the part I'm most looking forward to. Number 4, why do you love reading? This is the easiest and hardest question, I think, on the list, because it just feels so inherent or easy, and yet it's really hard to put into words. I love reading because it's always been there for me. You know, like, it has given me so many gifts in a really kind of hokey sounding way. Yeah, I've taught myself new words through reading. I've given myself better communication skills through reading. I've explored new places or places that don't exist, or gotten an expanded worldview or perspective through reading. And I just think authors give us this kind of magical gift when they put books out into the world, and even the books I don't like, you know, because bad gifts are a thing, we've all gotten one, but even those have taught me a lot about who I am as a reader, what I value, what I maybe don't value. And that in and of itself is a gift. Like getting to know myself better and what matters to me is a gift that I've gotten through reading. Number 5, what book or series got you into reading? I think, again, this is one that, like, my first knee-jerk response is the old HP, Harry Potter, by J.K. Rowling, and that's a huge part of my nerdy adulthood as well as my very nerdy childhood. But I think more accurately, the book that had the biggest impact on me as a kid was Tamora Pierce's, I think it's either the Lioness Quartet or it's the Song of the Lioness Quartet. I can't quite remember. But it's the story about Alana of Trebond, who finds that her society's, gender roles, she doesn't want to live up to those expectations. She wants to be a lady knight. And the only way she can do that is by switching places with her twin brother and going in disguise as a boy to train to be a knight. And the whole series, the 4-book series, covers her from like when she's 11 or 12 all the way until when she's reached like her early 20s and has become an adult. And so she faces a whole series of really important challenges, prejudices, and personal growth in the process. And holy cow, these books had such a huge impact on me growing up. Like, I feel like I created my personal honor system courtesy of these books. And they're still a huge part of the tropes that I really love as a reader. Again, fantasy worlds. We have lady badasses, always a good trope for me. I feel like gender disguise, like either whether it's like a woman pretending to be a man or a man pretending to be a woman, I find that like disguise trope like somewhat satisfying for reasons that completely escape me. But yeah, so like those are the kind of things that I've just always to this day still love in reading. And a lot of that comes from Tamora Pierce, and I devoured all of her books when I was growing up. Question 6. What question would you ask some of your favorite booktubers? I think I probably have a lot of questions. I'm just a very question-oriented person. But I think the big one for me is I would want to know, where do you get your books? Like, what bookstores in your life do you go to? Are they new and current bookstores? Are they used bookstores? Please take me to them, because I think that's the coolest thing. Like, especially used bookstores end up being these treasure troves, and where you go to find books often really says a lot about you as a person, I think, or like what kind of things you love about books. So I think that would be one of my first questions. Of course, the standard, like, can we hang out? Can we be friends? would probably also be on my agenda, but the books come first. Question 7. What challenges about starting a BookTube channel do you think will be the biggest or hardest to overcome? Oh man, I've thought a lot about this, and I think the editing is maybe the thing that scares me the most. Like, I come from a film-oriented background in the sense that I'm working on my doctorate in cinema and media studies, but that means I have no real knowledge about the actual film production side of things. What I do in my day-to-day job is more like historical or analytical, looking at film and other types of media. So editing is something that I don't really know how to do very well. I understand the basics, but don't have a lot of skills. But on the flip side, it does mean that this video and the next couple of videos are probably going to be like my worst in terms of editing. It can only go up from here, and I choose to take that as a positive challenge and something that I will get better at. Yeah, looking for that silver lining. Number 8. When did you start reading? I think I've been reading for a very long time. I think if I wasn't reading myself, I was being read to. I come from a pretty bookish family, and so I would say probably like 2 or 3. I've been reading at least that long, and it's been a huge part of my life. My undergrad degree is in creative writing and literature, so even my first degree was very book-based, and then ever since then, even with graduate school, reading has always been a constant. It's been like my North Star of getting me through the tough times in life. Number 9, where do you read? I like to read in bed. I think that's the best thing. I really like cozy spaces, so under the covers with my mound of pillows behind me, this is the sweet spot for just reading and general coziness. I will also happily read on a couch. I tend to go for places that are a little bit quiet because I get really distracted by other people if they're talking while I'm reading. I have a hard time tuning that out. I can't really like listen to a TV show or have something else on in the background if I'm trying to read. Like, it's really distracting for me. I sometimes can read on trains or planes, but I cannot read in cars because I get very car sick. But yeah, in general, bed, the couch, somewhere I can curl up into a little ball and get my read on. Number 10. What kind of books do you like to read? Oh, so many. I think all books. Is that an answer I can give? All books. No, in all seriousness, I have about 3 genres that I read the most from, and then a bunch of other genres that I tend to pull from whenever I'm in the mood. I'm a huge mood reader, so I'll go through fits and starts with genres until I've just had my fill, and then I'll move on and then cycle back eventually. But the 3 that I'm usually hanging around in are YA, typically YA fantasy. I will sometimes read YA contemporary, but you know, YA fantasy is where it's at for me. And then with that comes adult fantasy. Whether it's high fantasy or low fantasy doesn't really bother me. I just like fantasy as a reader. And then the other huge consistent in my life are romance novels. So I will read anything within that genre. Contemporary, urban fantasy, paranormal, historical fantasy. I love it all. So those are probably the 3 that you'll see the most of from me. And then kind of branching out from there, I really like a whole variety of things to kind of supplement those main genres. So I will do sometimes some poetry, some nonfiction, historical fiction, literary fiction, graphic novels, and then I'm just dipping my toe into the thriller genre. And I say dipping my toe because I'm a really big scaredy cat, like huge. I live in an apartment complex, and so my imagination just runs wild when I read thrillers. Like, I'll hear a creak or a door shut somewhere else in the complex, and my immediate thought is like, somebody's coming for me. Gotta run. And yeah, so, you know, that's an additional stressor in my life that, like, I only take on very occasionally. So sometimes thrillers. But yeah, I would say I'm a little all over the place with my reading habits, but in a way that keeps it fun and interesting for me. And so hopefully you'll find something that you can like within my reading tastes as well. And I really look forward to having more conversations along this line where we get into like the recommendation space, because that's the dream, the BookTube dream. But yeah, we've reached the end of the BookTube Newbie Tag. Thank you so much for spending the time with me and for getting to know me a little bit with this first video. I hope you have a fantastic reading day, and if you want to see more from me, make sure to like and subscribe so that you can keep updated with what's happening on this channel. Alright, that's it for me. Bye!